Hey, it's
No.
Mike now.
Now we're live. 5 seconds. Cool, man. Awesome.
So yeah, I got Shawn with me, folks. Can you guys hear us now? Well, let me know, please, so we don't, waste any time here.
Yeah, looks like Sheldon can hear us. There you go.
My two favorite YouTubers. Okay, I guess so. I guess you can hear me. Anyways, all praise and glory go to the Most High, our Heavenly Father. In the name of Jesus, may He bless this time with us.
Amen.
Shawn, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Doing good. If for the folks that are listening live or in the future, if you would send some prayers out for my niece Courtney. She got a bad result on a cervix test earlier today. So if you would please send some prayers up to God. I appreciate it.
Yes, Heavenly Father, please watch over this lady and have mercy on her in Jesus' name.
Amen.
So hey, Shawn. So hey, you guys. It looks like both of you already know, but those who don't know Shawn, please go over to Chasing the Truth. Shawn G. It's a YouTube channel. It's the home of the only unscreened open line Paranormal Live Call-in show. With
well, at that time, that was the only one that was live and unscreened. I'd say there was a couple of people out there that tries to do the unscreened calls, but I answer them every time somebody calls in. There's rare that I had to block a few people, but outside of that, absolutely, it's unscreened live.
Well, it says here that it's with your Christian point of view on the supernatural, and anything is possible. You need to know what to expect on the other end of the line. What do you mean by that?
No, wait a minute. I got to reread that. I heard, it's been a hot minute since I wrote that. Give me just a second.
You never knew what to expect on the other end of the line. Are we just talking about phone calls, or are we talking about something that's a little?
Yeah, that's probably phone calls. Yeah, that's phone calls. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, anyways, Shawn, for those who don't know, those who soon will, Shawn was one of the few people who gave me a chance to share my complete story, or not complete, but most of the story of what happened to me in 2017. And I have utmost respect for Shawn for that and gratitude for that, and wish the best for him. And I hope that he has great success. Now, Shawn has just had a bit of a change in his life. He no longer, it sounds like you're no longer connected with Dark Water. You're going solo. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I entered into a contract in January, February, March, April, May, June of 2018 with DW, Dark Waters. And the contract was, set up to where, when it was time for either or to end the contract, we could do it. And we ended on a good note. It was just time. God opened the door and closed the door. And that's how I see fit to express that. And God bless James, a.k.a. DW, for giving me the opportunity to, kind of piggyback on his Dark Waters brand and bust my chops up a couple of times to show me the ropes of doing this incredible thing called a podcast radio show. So there you go.
Well, that sounds good. So much gratitude to him and my success with Dark Waters, and even more so for you, my friend. So, so what do we expect now in the future? Now, you're saying that you're still going to do your Wednesdays and Saturdays?
As far as I know, I will, keep the Wednesdays and Saturdays. I may change the dates. That's ad lib on my behalf. I'm not getting paid for any of this, so the only thing I'm going to get, I'm not getting paid for any of this. The only thing that this show has to do with, from my perspective, is it's part of a promise to God to fulfill a promise. Outside of writing my books that outline my near-death experience and the visions that he has given me on a daily and nightly basis since February 11th of 2022. So
cool.
Outside, that's about it. Now, God has opened doors and made things possible, and I assume that that's exactly what's going to happen from this point forward. If he wants me to keep doing this show, I will keep doing it until something says, hey, buddy, you can't do it no more. And I will, without a doubt, quit, depending on, what God leads me to do.
Yes, it's a good plan, good strategy. Hey, I'm going to say hello to the Catalyst, to Sugar Reaches, of course, Sheldon and Don, the Doll. Who else is here with us right now? Caddy Seal, hello. And did I miss somebody? I'm sure I did with my dyslexia. Anyways, let's go into this, man. You got an interesting story that I haven't had a chance to really hear too much about. I've heard bits and pieces of it since I've come to know you. I've known you since 2022. And by the way, I don't get paid for this either, so.
Well, that's cool.
So I wouldn't do this for the money anyways. I learned long time ago that money and the truth are well. So I'd rather have the truth. So saying that, let's learn a bit more about Shawn Graham. Shawn, it sounds to me like you had a pretty traumatic experience in your life a while back that changed everything. Are you interested to go into that at this point?
Sure, I won't have any problems. Back before anybody ever heard of Shawn Graham and this Chasing the Truth thing in Dark Waters, I was a respiratory therapist and a sleep specialist. I ran sleep labs. I had 5 sleep labs under my auspice for a hospital chain. And one thing led to another, and I got into alcoholism, really bad alcoholism. And a lot of alcoholics keep that crap pretty tight to the chest, and not a lot of people really knew that I was alcoholic at the time. But one thing led to another, and I wound up in a car accident that I caused because of my alcoholism. I didn't hurt anybody other than myself. I lost my left leg due to it got pinned underneath the dashboard of Kia Sportage that I was driving at the time. And of course, drunk driving, you get all the fun stuff of, hey, you're not supposed to drink and drive on the streets of Tennessee. Or that's what the law says anyway. So I went through and did all the repercussions of what that entails. I went to multiple court dates and whatnot afterwards, but I went to jail that night and still had my leg at that time. Don't get me wrong. But 7 days later, a necrotizing fasciitis, that flesh-eating bug that everybody has heard periodically about, infected my left leg, and it ate it up. Oh my God, did it eat it up. So 7 days later, this happened in November 17th of 2015. So the day after Thanksgiving, I called my sister up and said, "Sis, I need to be taken to the doctor or taken to the hospital. My leg looks like Freddy Krueger got a hold of it." And of course, by that time, but I was in such pain and out of it. I was just, I couldn't tell you what happened that day other than I remember bits and pieces of what I did physically that day. Up until I remember being in the ER and seeing my leg just pop open because it was gangrene, and it just popped open like dropping a watermelon on a concrete floor. Once my leg hit the ER stretcher, I remember that, and the doctor come in that I'd known for, good Lord, 20 years, give or take, as a surgeon. And he said, Shawn, I'm going to have to take that leg, and because of your dire straits, you've got about a 30 to 40% chance of surviving the operation. And of course, anybody that would wind up having that kind of conversation, that statement presented to you at that time, you would think I would lose my cool. And I didn't. It was like, oh, okay, all right. So at that time, my brother and my sister was there only, according, what I remember of it, but there were several others that came after that. And I said my goodbyes to my brother and my sister, and I fully expected that I wouldn't make it. I would never wake up in this body again. So I said a sinner's prayer and said, Father, I know I have sinned against you. Please forgive me of everything that I have done in this life against you. And the doctor had just said, hey, I gave you a shot for pain, and you're going to go out. This is going to knock you out. Who do you want to be power of attorney? Which I named my sister. And I said my goodbyes, and then the next thing I know, I kind of went over on my right side, and next thing was I went to sleep. And after that, I woke up in this darkness. And at that time started to get really, really dilated and wonky. I didn't have a sense of time other than I knew time was passing. How much time? I have no clue how much time passed. I can tell you from the time I went to sleep to the time I woke up in another hospital about 40 miles from where my butt was in that particular hospital was about maybe 11 days, 12 days, give or take. But it felt like lifetimes of time passed. I mean, just amazing lifetimes of time. Thousands of upon thousands of years passed from my perspective. Now, I know a lot of people will probably say, well, how did that happen? I don't know. Other than that was my thing, that time I was exposed to was a whole lot different over here. Dark Waters actually asked me to explain it, how I perceived time. I was like, it was there as maybe a suggestion. It was like time swirled forward and backwards like in a whirlwind, but stood still and could move backwards and forwards at the whim of a thought. Yeah. So I didn't grow old, didn't grow young. I didn't do anything other than I was in a place that I floated forever and a day. Now, I was on a couple other shows that they were so infatuated with this void, which the void was a void. I floated in that void forever and a day, and there was some thoughts I had with being there, but it taught me one thing. You cannot take a dad burn thing with you other than what you can take in your heart. Love, friendships, memories. You can't take any kind of objects. You can't take anything that you could pick up in this life. You can't take with you. And it was a little bit belittling to me. And I can remember screaming out into the darkness. I mean, I tried my best to make a noise, but I couldn't feel breath. I couldn't hear a sound. If I had a hand, I tried my best to slap the living snot out of my face, and I didn't have a face or a hand to do such a thing. Other than I was just sitting. floating there with a consciousness, and that was the only thing. Now, since I made my promise to God on February 11th of 2022, let's see. Well, anyway, how much of this do you want to get? I know I said I will do about an hour.
It's up to you, buddy. First of all, the thing is about this floating in the void. I know a lot of people have an interest in it. I know there's certain groups out there, and I've shared that with people to introduce them to it. And that is this whole idea of the reincarnation, soul trap matrix, and what their whole idea is, they are encouraging people to develop enough supposed strength to stay in the void and not go back into the light, as they say, or this tunnel. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about this, and because it sounds to me like you got the impression that there's something that's maybe similar to reincarnation with the thousands of years of life, possibly, maybe not. But the other thing is this void, and we hear about this void in the scriptures, in outer darkness. Are we talking about the same thing here, first of all? And it sounded to me like, well, it didn't sound like it was that positive thing for you to be in the void. So
it was never. It wasn't positive or negative. It was just the experience of that being. Did it end that experience? Yes, it did, and I did not enter in a tunnel of light. That's one little thing that my near-death experience versus a vast majority of other experiences that are near-death that. They kind of enjoy telling about this tunnel of light. Did I see that? Nope, I did not. I did not see a tunnel of light. The first thing I saw after multiple, I couldn't tell you how long it was. It could be a snap of a finger. It could be thousands of years floating in that void. The first thing I saw was an eye that opened up in front of me. And it was glowing. And it was a reptilian eye looking at me, and then it kind of spooked me for a little bit, and I was like, well, wait a minute, if this thing was going to hurt me or harm me, it had already done it by now, or whatever it is that I was unaware of in this void. So after that, it opened and then slowly closed, and then I floated in that darkness for a long, long time after that. And then it opened another time, and another eye opened that was disassociated with that eye in another spot, and it kept on growing and growing and growing. Opening and closing and opening and closing until finally I was surrounded by multiple eyes. I mean, hundreds upon hundreds of eyes. Let's see. Sheldon and Dawn. Sheldon asked if do I feel burdened by any of your dreams? Do I feel burdened by them? No. I have had a lot of. I hate to use this. Not hate. I dislike using this term prophetic dreams. I've had those. I've had dreams that angels and demons and other entities will come to me, and I have rebuked demons in the name of Jesus Christ, and they leave me. So, but the ones I dislike to have are the ones that I am in front of demons, and I have fought myself to get awake. There was one thing that happened here recently, last probably into the spring or into the summer, into first of fall. I was given back what was in that void. What I was shown was God took a big, hefty amount of my memories and replaced it with a void. And then in that void that he replaced it with, outside of being in heaven, was I was in hell for a long time. And it wasn't pleasant. I fought my best to get out of that particular dream. And there was a demon there that kept me in the dream and said, no, you can't leave yet. It is not, you are mine to be here. And I got to the point where I was fighting to stay awake and not fall back asleep. Because literally I was, riding during the day. I can remember riding out on my back porch and then falling asleep while I was riding, and next thing I was in hell. And to say I would experience pain beyond pain would be a joke. It was far beyond that. I would go through physical pain for the eternity if it was just that. This was mental, spiritual, emotional pain that kind of made a mockery of, just physical pain. But yeah, that one.
Physical pain. What did you see?
What did I see? In that hellscape, I guess you could call it. Prior to me even having a near-death experience, prior to me losing my leg, I had multiple dreams of the same place since I was a little kid. I mean, the earliest memories I've had was of this place. It was probably a late 1700s, 1800s house, Victorian house. And in the backyard was this huge, gorgeous willow tree. And I had, if you ever had a repeating dream, this was my repeating dream. I'd wake up and, throughout my entire adult life, I would have this repeating dream. And in my early childhood and adulthood, I would have this dream every so often. Right at the end, the last one I had was about every 6 months that I have the same dream. And I'd wake up from this dream of this place, this house, this willow tree. And I would wake up and smell honeysuckle. Like I just dived headfirst into a big patch of honeysuckle. And that's how I woke up. And I fought to try to go back to sleep and, get back into that dream because it was such a pleasant, carefree, like this was home kind of deal. But in this hellscape, that place was this place, but it was burnt to a cinder. I recognized where the remnants of a tree was that particular willow. And from the largest branch of that tree hung everyone I ever cared for, everyone I ever loved hung from that tree.
Huh. Wow.
And I haven't, you are actually, I don't think I've said this anywhere else other than in private with a couple of people. So this is the first time I've ever mentioned this on air. But at that time, the first time I recognized I was in that hell, an angel said, "It's time for you to remember what was in the void." And I was like, okay, if God is wanting me to remember that, so be it. I'm only here because God gifted me this time to be back. So I said, might as well, let's go. If it be God's will, then let me have it. And the next thing I woke up from that dream, and I did my complete day thinking, okay, I wonder what's going to happen. And I fell back asleep, and I woke up in hell the following night when I fell asleep. I woke up in hell, and I couldn't breathe. It felt like I was choking on not only fire and ash, but blood in my throat. I was coughing up blood. I was in such dire pain, just physical pain. My left leg was there in the dream, and it was rotted, but it was still there. And this demon pops up and grabs a hold of me, pulls me to stand. And there's some other things I left out, but more or less, I had my rotted left leg in that hellscape. And did it hurt? Oh, hell yeah, it did, without a doubt. But I experienced so much more physical pain, and this demon said, "Why don't you scream?" And I was like, I couldn't really talk. I could clear my throat and say a couple words, but I refused to scream. And then this demon said, "I know what will get to you." So he drugged me to the foot of this tree, and in my dreams prior to that, when I was alive, at that time I fully knew I was dead. Drugged me to the burnt cinders of this tree, threw me to the ground. I look up, and there is this bare foot dangling in midair, and blood was dripping from this foot, and it was someone I loved dearly in life. And this demon screamed, "You put this woman here on this tree.
Really?
You strung her up by your deeds." So I went through this, and everyone I ever cared for or loved or called friend, I saw them hanging from that tree.
So this demonic entity had decided to use guilt to manipulate you.
It used, all it wanted for me was to say, it kept tormenting me and say, okay, all you have to do is say, I will quit my promise to God. Just give it up. Say, I'll stop right now. Don't write. Don't talk about it. Just say, I'm done, and this will all be over. At that time, I remember how can I explain this? Because time and how I perceived is so much different in that dreamscape. But I looked at this and said, no, I'm not going to forego a promise or say, God, please forgive me. I'm not going to do my promise anymore. That's all this demon wanted, was me to drop my promise. And then it offered me everything I ever wanted. So that if you would just say no to God, then all this will be over. So that everyone that's hung from that tree, they will live their life to the fullest with every fruit that they could ever possibly want. They will have. And I screamed out 3 words, at what price? And then I said no.
Okay.
So I went on, and this thing tried every which way. It knew every little tidbit of my life, everything, every moment secret, unspoken that I, thought I had forgotten, it used against me. And then, it would get me to the point where it could see that it was, mentally, emotionally, spiritually draining me. And then it would grab a hold of me and punch me in my leg. and rake me and pull me around with that, by the foot of my rotting leg, and say, just say it. Say, give up your promise to God, and this will all be done. And I fought to wake up from that. And I almost did it once or twice. And then it grabbed a hold of me and said, you can't wake up yet. There for about a week and a half. Actually, I asked one of our friends and said, how long was I having that hell dream? And she said, maybe a week and a half, 10 days, give or take. And that's what I thought. I just recently woke up from a dream. An angel was I had a discussion with the angel about everything had happened up to that point. And I asked, well, why was I having all these dreams about hell for that amount of time? I said, well, how long were you in your near-death experience? And I said, physically or while I'm here? And the angel said, physically. How long were you in the near-death experience? I said, I think about 10 days, give or take. And they said, well, there's your answer. So, the weird thing about talking to angels, they talk. Some of them are straightforward and very short and to the point, and some talk with the ability to say what seems like nonsense to me at the time, and then about maybe a few days later, maybe a few weeks later, I'll remember like, oh, that's what that angel meant. It's just the strangest thing. But I woke up. I'm not going to tell you how the hell dreams ended, but I woke up from the hell dreams, and I woke up, and that sensation of waking up, and it felt like spring day in my house, and honeysuckle was all around. That was it. But at that time, when I had the near-death experience, and up to the point where all the folks that's in the chat probably have heard me, if they've heard me talk about the near-death experience at all, I never touched on anything other than I floated in a void, and then the eyes popped open. And then I started hearing these eyes, or what I assumed was the eyes talking, asked me about pertinent information that, like the first one, or first few that I remember was, why did you, well, I'll skip to the end to, it'll give you the idea of what kind of level of interrogation, I guess. Actually, the very first question they asked me, I suddenly was in a high school classroom in my history class. I think 11th grade, 10th grade, something like that. And it was like first person, like I was there, and I was 14, 15, 16 years old, something like that. Whatever 10th grade history class would be. And for whatever reason, I had to cheat for something. I don't know what it was, other than I had written on the desk with a little pencil a couple of answers. And I had a piece of notebook paper from a science, my science workbook or science notebook or whatever. I ripped it out, and that was the only clean piece of paper I had, or semi-clean. And I was using it as a cover page. And the thing of it is the teacher come up to me, grabbed a hold of the piece of paper, and said, aha, I caught you, and then looked at, oh, this is science. I said, yeah, that's the only clean piece, or close to clean piece of paper I had. And my heart was leaping out of my throat, thinking, oh God, I got caught by for cheating. But I didn't really get caught by cheating. And as soon as that memory was over. That was such a realistic, like I was there. And then all of a sudden I was back in front of the eyes and the darkness around the eyes, and they were asking me, why did you write in blue ink on that piece of paper the teacher grabbed from you? And I'm like, oh, I thought it was kind of a stupid question, but I answered it. So, well, if you know that much about me in that kind of great detail, I must be dead. And this must be my life review, as you know, everybody that come back from a near-death experience sometimes have. And I was like, okay, well, I'll answer it to the best of my ability. I said that was a piece of notebook paper that at that time I had a blue ink pen. That's it.
Blue.
A blue. That's what that voice in my head wanted to know. And then I floated, floated in the middle of all these eyes to think about how, what my consciousness. Now, here's the weird thing. It was not like in this 3D reality that we're in. You can see in front of you, you see your monitor, the microphone, all that stuff, and, the table in front of you and all this stuff. You got this 3D. But then I could see all completely around me in 360. The entire global view. I was aware of every eye, of every eyelash, of every color of eye. When it opened, when it closed, I was comparing everything at once. Which eye did I think belonged to the next one? Which one was mated with this, eye, here, there, and everywhere. I was aware of everything at once. And that being said, that was the strangest sensation. And now I've gotten kind of used to it just because of circumstances. But after that, one question after say again.
When you said strange, when you said strangeness, what do you mean? Was it because you felt like you're being watched?
Oh, I was definitely being watched. What are you talking about? I was surrounded by eyes. It was like being in a snow globe, and eyes were pressed up against the snow globe, and I was the figurine in the middle of the snow globe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So if that makes you gives you an idea of what my conceptual awareness of the situation was at that time, that was what that was. And these eyes would open and close at random intervals, and I tried to figure out, well, okay, is there something to that? And then I thought, well, screw that. There's no rhyme or reason to why these eyes open and close. And the only thing that was of interest or pertinent was these questions that come and went, and some of them were kind of interesting questions, and most of them were like someone that did not have a conception of being human could have asked. Like the final bit that I actually when I asked God to I went through a whole heck of a lot of different things, and then on February 11th of 2022 my friend Julie said, Shawn, have you ever asked God what you need to do? I was in a funky, deep, dark depression, and she was very aware of it, and God bless her for being my friend and being there. And she said, well, have you ever asked God to do what you needed to do? And now, for whatever reason, that sounded like, well, why in the heck didn't I think about this? Why couldn't I have done this? And Julie said, okay, make your place comfortable, turn off lights, get some nice soothing music on or whatever, and start praying. And of course I did that with all earnest. I was like, okay, well, everything I've done up to this point ain't doing crap Ola for my mood or my direction. So I started praying. At that time, it was rare for me to have any kind of dreams. I would have a dream here and there, and it would be kind of weird dreams, but nothing of substance that I could say, well, Okay, I kind of remember that, and it was a weird dream. But at this time, I don't know if I fell asleep or suddenly I was pulled into darkness, but it was out in the middle of a spatial field, like I was out in the middle of space.
Mm-hmm.
But surrounding me were all these dark entities. Some had red eyes. Most of them had red eyes, and some didn't have eyes at all, just dark entities. And then I felt the presence of God for the first time in a long time. I said, "Oh God, what do I need to do? Obviously, I'm on the wrong path here. What do I need to do?" And God said, "You need to write your promise." I said, "Well, God, I have been doing shows. I have been interviewed. I've told everyone that has ever asked me about what I can remember." He said, "That's not enough. What's going to happen when you come to be with me for the final time? Your voice is going to disappear." And I said, "Okay, so what do I need to do?" And he reiterated, "You need to write your gifts." And at that time, it hit me what he meant. It was like, I have to write all that I can remember at that time, which I knew at that time that I did not remember much. At that time, I could write encyclopedias upon encyclopedias and still not be done. But I knew that I barely scratched the surface on what I was exposed to in a near-death experience. And it hit me and said, this is going to take the rest of my life. And then I answered my own question, like, well, I wouldn't be here without you granting me the ability to come back and get a second bite at this apple of life. So next thing I thought, well, I'll have to write for the remainder of my life. I said, God, if this is what you want me to do, I will to use the rest of my life to spread the gifts that you have given me. I will write, I will talk, I will do whatever it is that you can make me do or want me to do by your will. And before I went into this prayer, I couldn't tell you how, it was several hours had passed. And I woke up from this prayer, and all that funky, depressive, what have you, went away. And went like pop. I didn't have any depression. It was like that was lifted off of me, like you peel the skin off of an apple or a piece of fruit or vegetable. It was gone. But here's the wild thing was I checked my phone and I had 3 emails that was sent during my prayer that asked me to help write my book. Now, I had done a show the night before about my near-death experience, and I didn't say anything about writing a book or anything like that. I just went through and asked, did my open question. You ask a question, and that'll prompt me to explain the answer kind of show. But during that time, it wasn't previous to me starting the prayer. It was during the prayer when all 3 of these emails come to me. And this guy, I believe his name was Mike, reached out to me. I talked to him on the phone, and he gave me some tips and pointers. And he actually doesn't live that far from me over in Kentucky. And I said, well, how do I start this? I said, he said, what do you remember first right now? If you had to say you wanted to tell me a story about your near-death experience. Okay. First, which leads and kind of segues into the last thing that I was about ready to say about what brought me out of being in front of these crazy reptilian eyes, was I was transported back to when I was 5 years old in a little coal camp called Dunbar, Virginia. And I told him about this, and it's like, well, can you write that out? And I said, sure, why not? So after I got off the phone with him, I looked at it and said, 3 people came to me wanting to help me write. And I've had other people approach me and said, hey, if you need an editor, you need somebody to proofread, they have been gracious enough to say, offer me that without a doubt. But everything fell into places. Like when I needed to start writing this, this near-death experience out, it just fell in place, one right after another. It took me about an hour to figure out what app I needed to do to start writing my near-death experience out. And that fell into place. And then I started writing. I wrote, before I quit writing that night, I had written 14 or 15 pages. It just flowed out of me. It was like, okay, holy cow. Sheldon, no, I don't. I've actually had that suggestion about using a voice recorder. To me, no, that would be, I'm pretty good at typing. I'm not that great a speller, but that's what spell check and grammar check and all that kind of other stuff has to do with it. But I don't use voice recorders.
What app do you use?
It is actually, let me see. It's called Writer, and I do need to do this. If Julie's in the chat or if Shell's in the chat, I need to give you access to this to kind of put a dead man switch on this thing. So if something does happen that I can't write anymore, at least you can. Hold on a second. I'll show you what I have been writing. Tell you what, I'll share this with you guys. I won't show you each individual page or whatever, but I'll show you the what I have been writing. There you go. There you go. Let me share my screen real quick.
Sorry, I hit the wrong.
And I'll scroll through. Now, each one of these things, if you see here, if you share that screen there, I just shared with you.
Okay, let me hide this and let's see. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So all these are chapters that I just keep on writing. 1, 2, 3, 4. All these have at least, on average, 10 pages per entry. So
you got a lot of
all
pages.
this.
400, you said?
I asked them about 10 pages per chapter. There's some that may have just a half a page, and that's about it. And then there's some that has a lot. So there you go. I estimate I have about between 300 and 500 pages already written. Okay. And that's February 11th of next month will be my year into this. And I haven't even started yet. Have not even started yet. But everything fell into place that day on February 11th. It was like, holy cow, I'm free of this depression, this anxiety, this what do I need to do with my life? It was like I was being oppressed a little bit, depressed, certainly. And it just felt, once I wrote those first 14 pages, and this is piece of the story. I was back in this place called Dunbar, Virginia, and I was 5 years old, and my late aunt said, Shawn, can you go to the feed store, which is right down the railroad track from in this coal camp? And I thought I would, really a big guy to walk all the way down to the end of the railroad track was, probably 50 yards from my aunt's back door to the feed store. So I pick up a brown sack, and I was walking down the railroad track, and I could feel the heat of the day, the sweat on my brow, the the crunch of the gravel under my feet as I was walking down the railroad track to the feed store. And then I looked and saw this little Coke bottle cap from a glass bottle. Not the glass bottle, just a Coke bottle cap. And I reached down to grab a hold of it and pull it up and look at it. And I could remember every great detail, the little gasket inside of this of a bottle cap that makes it, liquid tight, airtight, and all that stuff. And I was looking at it, and I could remember saying, "Yeah, I could use I could really want a Coca-Cola right now." And then I snapped out of it, out of that memory, and I was back in front of those eyes, and they asked me, "Why did you pick up that Coca-Cola bottle cap?" And it hit me wrong. I got so angry at that point. I cussed like a sailor. And I said, what in the hell would a 5-year-old, I just went, I was 5 years old. I saw something that was shiny and it looked like a Coca-Cola bottle cap. And I wanted Coca-Cola and I was hot. And, I cussed. And all of a sudden I said, what in the name of God and Jesus Christ am I doing here? Is this what the afterlife is about? And as soon as I said God and Jesus Christ, these eyes all closed and went away. Except for two. Now, it was like I just rebuked them.
How many eyes? How many eyes?
How many eyes? Hundreds upon hundreds. I would dare say there are probably 600 plus, if not more. All reptilian, by the way. But that part I thought about long and hard, wondering what in the heck were all those eyes all about. I had told Dark Waters James about this little bit, but all but two off in the distance remained. All but two left, but there was two in the distance remained. And it was like I was back in the void, but these two glowing red eyes off in the far distance. And it was attached to what looked like a reptilian humanoid. And that's the strangest thing. Now, I look back at it, and I've thought about this. I couldn't tell you how many times about what that thing was. So, but it was also floating near this big, huge, opal-esque looking thing. It was glowing white and colors of rainbows were swirling around inside of the thing. And if you ever watched any of my shows, I actually kind of made a graphic out of it. And I put it up on a green screen while I was doing one of these shows. Show what this opal thing was. At that time, I was pretty hot and mad about, what the heck was I doing in all this stuff? And I grew, I floated. I didn't walk. There was no, I didn't have any physical sensation. I had a body. I remember looking in my hands at that time, and it was actually one of the 2 times I remember my near-death experience having hands that I could actually see outside of having been pushed back into memory to relive. But I could see I had a body at that time. And I moved closer to this reptilian thing. I said, what? At that time, I said, oh, heck, I'm dead. What was this thing going to do to me? Push me back in the void? Okay, I've already been there forever. So, no big deal with that. So I said aloud, which it didn't react other than it didn't want to be near me, so it moved back away from me. So I looked at this reptilian, and I looked at this big opal thing that, after fact, I call it an opal gate. But this thing was back, if you ever been at a huge Catholic cathedral, and the doors that lead into a rather large cathedral, it was as big as the doors on a Catholic cathedral.
Okay.
That big. And to look at it, it was glowing whitish, kind of glowing like a rainbowish, and it was kind of swirling around. I look back at the reptilian, whatever you want to call that thing. Mm-hmm. And then I said, well, I wonder, I got a little closer to this opal thing, and it was glowing, and I reached out to touch it, and I put my hand on it, and it felt kind of warm. It was like sticking your hand in a bucket of warm paint, kind of that viscosity, but warmth. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's strange. That was the first sensation I've had since I could remember of this near-death experience started. And I either, as I was trying to pull my hand out of this thing, or this thing come at me, or I fell into this opal, I was surrounded by white light to the point where, if you've ever been in New York City on Christmas Day, and there's all these people that just making all kinds of noises in the streets and honking and all that stuff, all that stimuli, times that by like 10,000. I could feel every pinprick. I could feel heat, cold noises that would blow your eardrums out. I couldn't cover my eyes to unsee any light. I couldn't make it all go away. And I endured that. It actually started hurting there for a little bit. So I remember getting into a fetal position, or what I thought was a fetal position. And it was like I was climatizing myself to whatever I was being transported to, or I may have. I was moving to another dimension, I would say. Yeah. So it didn't hurt anymore, and I got used to the light. I got used to all this sensation, and it was like I was expanded. Everything that I could see, touch, feel, taste was like dumbed down here. It was like when I come back, I had such a problem with having the ability to not be able to see behind me, not see above me, and see at distances farther than the imagination could reach. Mm-hmm. At the same time, and then have that ability to look from that point that I was looking at, and being at that point at the same time, and looking back where I first started observing. And that's kind of hard. That's not exactly the way I perceived it, but I was everywhere at once, but able to perceive it all at once. Yeah, if that makes sense. Sheldon, I will undoubtedly write enough to fill several books. And so this 360 dimensional perception that you have, this sounds very familiar. I've heard this multiple times. Yeah. So it sounds like it was very overwhelming. Please carry on. Was up to the point where I got used to the environment, the awareness I suddenly had. And before me was this entity, this glowing, I would say energy signature, but it wasn't an energy signature. But it said, "Do not be afraid. I'm here to help you remember." And I have run that through my head up until the point I actually had that answered after I promised God I would start writing this stuff. what this angel meant by I'm going to help you remember. So at that time, up until this point, everybody that's in chat that has heard me say anything about this particular story, this remembrance of how I entered heaven at that time, this entity, I could not remember the entity's name. It was like being in a room alone in a house where you had somebody that was related to and you loved dearly, say like a wife or a son or a daughter or somebody that you knew all your life, and their presence just entered the room and you didn't even have to look, and you said, well, yeah, that was XYZ, or that's my sister, or that's my old wife, or whatever, without having to look. To me, that was this entity's name, this angel's name. So instead of having to go through all that rigmarole that I just said, hey, I recognize this based off of a feeling, this entity, I nicknamed this thing Bob.
Okay, Bob.
Yeah, Bob.
You know why? You know why?
Why?
No,
why I nicknamed him?
Yeah.
Why? Just because it was humorous to me. Instead of having to, I didn't nickname him Bob at that time. I nicknamed him Bob when I was telling the story, instead of having to say, you remember that angel that I didn't have a name for, that I recognized this entity based off of how it made me feel. That's Bob. And instead of having to go through that whole rigmarole and just nickname it Bob. But I have learned the name of that angel since then. So, and I'll let the book name that angel. But is this a continuing dream, Shawn? Yeah, it is a continuing dream. Every night that I fall asleep, even when I take naps during the day, I have a robust, hyper real. It's like I've been transported back to where I was in heaven. For the most part, there's been a couple of times. Well, there was a time where I woke up in probably late summer. This is the strange thing. I would wake up and think, "Oh wow, this was a fast sleep," and I don't remember having a dream. Maybe maybe I get a rest from not having a dream. I'd wake up and I would start my day and get in my wheelchair, scratch all the itchy parts on my body, head, you name it, and go and grab a cup of coffee and then start writing. So the very first day that I recognized this, I wound up on the back porch at that time, writing as I do while I was awake, and I wrote and kept writing. And the angel that I referred to as Bob just a moment ago appears sitting across from me at the table that I was had my laptop writing this book. And I looked at Bob and I said, well, that's strange. Why am I seeing you while I'm awake? Why? What's going on here? I said, am I dead? And Bob actually said, look at your legs. I looked down and I had two legs. I have a left leg amputation. I was like, I'll be a son of a gun. This is a dream. And I said, why am I doing this? And I said, oh, God has gifted you something else. We'll have to explore this. I said, I don't have all the answers to give you. This part is from God, not from me. So Bob, this angel, appeared as I was going through my day. There was a couple days after that, or nights, when I would start my dream, and I'm like, get caught up in it, like, well, that was short sleep, and then I'd realize, hey, I got two legs, and it got to the point where I would wake up inside this dream, knowing I had a dream. I was having a dream, and I was like, not again, really? I said, well, might as well do what I need to do. and right, and said, well, I've got, my promise is just as valid here in this dreamscape as it is as I'm awake, so might as well do what I promised and write. So day in and day out, I wrote on that back porch. I would go to sleep in my bed, wake up in the bed, and be in a dream. And I would be visited. The strange thing about it was, during the day, I've got the iPhone, I got computers, and I get messages and phone calls and all that other stuff. I would never get a message or phone call in the dream. I had the devices, but never rung, and I never felt the need to make a phone call or send a text message or anything like that. I had several conversations with angels and demons that would come at my back door. They wouldn't be able to enter the back. The only entity would be that angel, and a series. About 3 angels have ever been in my house in my dream. No demons, no nothing else besides that. I had Satan came to my back door, and it was disguised as everyone from my late brother, God rest his soul, to friends and family would wind up at my back door. And one wound up, and I knew that this person couldn't be there at the back door. And I said, why are you here? How did you get here? Well, let me in. I'm thirsty. I said, well, first you got to tell me how you got here. And then it started rambling on. I said, nope, I'm not buying it. You are not that person. And then it laughed and said, you caught me. And it turned out to be Satan. And I had the back porch is, surrounded by on 2 sides and has a screened in. It's a screened in back porch with a screened in porch door. And it turned into this creature that I recognize as Satan, as Lucifer. And it raked its fingers across the screen door, and its finger caught fire.
Huh.
In the dream, and said, God has protected you from me. And I said, really? Okay. And I can honestly tell you, I got a little cocky and kind of set in my ways, thinking, okay, what's going to happen? God has gifted me this audience with this thing. So there for about a week or so, I had multiple conversations with this demon. I had multiple conversations with angels. Don't get me wrong. I had, this wasn't the only dream I had. Since then, I'm no longer waking up in this house. I'm waking up elsewhere. But it finally got to the point where it was telling me, this demon was telling me things that was like half truths or just enough truth to get me to kind of trust it, because it told me things that come to be. And I'm like, I'll be a son of a gun if that's not what that thing told me was true. And it told me things that I kind of, at the time when it told me, I was in disbelief that it told me. I was like, no, there's no way that's going to happen. 2 days later, it was true. And I was like, holy crap. And then it started rambling on, and I kind of ignored it, and I was writing. And then all of a sudden I got tired of it, and I rebuked it in the name of Jesus Christ so hard. It was like I bled at the righteous anger I had at this thing. And it disappeared, and it went outside my property line and started screaming. And it has not entered my presence since, and it's been a while. But I left out a whole lot of stuff there. But that's all in the book too, or bits and pieces of it anyway. Since then, I left out a whole bunch of stuff with what happened while I was in the near-death experience. This last little bit has been my dreams of waking up in my dreams and having these experiences. I've been before God in my dreams 3 times so far.
3 times.
And the one, oh God, I still can't do it. God told me, spoke to me. I can say the words that he told me in my head. I can repeat it and scream in my head. But to even tell you what God told me at that time, I can't even hint at it. I've tried.
Why is that?
I can't. I don't know. I cannot speak what God told me. I can say it in my head all freaking day long. And as a matter of fact, I probably have done it several times that way in my head. And to the point where I'm about ready to say, Father God said, I can't do it. I can't even begin to say it. But he has told me several things about what to expect. What he was about ready to re-gift me. He said, I'm going to give you back what I have taken from you.
Huh.
And he hasn't disappointed me in that fact. But
how has he done that? How is he giving back what he's taken? What do you mean?
The void memory that I had in the near-death experience, up to the point where I got into hell and said the angel came to me and said, I don't want to do this, but this is the will of God, that you have to relive and remember this hellscape, this portion of what was in the void.
Okay.
And I have remembered volumes. Before that, I had told only one person about some of the near-death experience. You know, I did talk on some shows and whatnot, but there was by and large one person that I told the vast majority of what I had expressed. The one person had heard, and I can honestly tell you that one person hasn't even heard 1/1000th percentage point of what has been shown to me since then.
That sounds very interesting. I'd like to hear more.
Well, I'll tell you this: what has been re-gifted to me, had me remember what I was writing in my dream at that time. I was writing about King Solomon in my dream, and I would wake up and think, what? I remember writing about King Solomon, but what in the world was I writing about? And I would jump back in the dream the next day, and right at the end of the day, when this angel would visit me at the end of the day in the dream, I would ask and say, why can't I remember during the day when I'm awake? Why can't I remember these details about King Solomon? You know, I can remember little, bits and pieces of. I can remember King Solomon deposing, asking questions of these demons that are building these monuments for King Solomon for the will of God. I can remember that. I can remember seeing that, and I can remember standing there and seeing 9 priests around in King Solomon as these demons are doing King Solomon's will, at the behest of God's will. I can remember writing about it, but to wake up and say any great detail about it other than what I just told you, no. I spent hours upon hours writing about King Solomon in my dream, and I asked the angel, I said, why can't I remember this? So this memory is not yours to hold while you're awake. And I said, well, while I'm asleep and in that dream, made perfect sense to me. He said, yeah, I wouldn't want this, wouldn't want to have this knowledge in my lap and hold it and be able to talk about it at any great depth. Who would want to, who out there would want to know anything and have firsthand knowledge? That's what I was writing about, firsthand knowledge of King Solomon and what he did. Who would want that? I would say a great many people would want that. But I don't have that. And don't get me wrong, I don't have that right now. I can remember writing about it, and it's in my dream. But, yeah. But there you go. That's a little bit. I know I kind of jumped all over the place, and I missed hours upon hours upon hours of shows that I have talked about this on my own program, and been deposed and been a guest of other programs. Heck, I couldn't tell you how many hours I've spent talking about this thing. I haven't even begun to scratch the surface in this hour and a quarter that I've spent with you. There's no way I could tell you about it all. But ask one question, I'll answer it to my fullest ability without any time constraint for you there, Mike. What would you like to know out of what I just told you?
Well, there's if you saw the list of wrote down.
What list?
You might, since you've been talking to all the topics, everything you covered from.
All right.
So what's the one question?
Yeah, one question. If you had one, pick of the litter, and I will answer to the fullest of my ability that I'm allowed to. So,
okay. That's a damn good question because I have multiple questions here to talk about. I was thinking, what is it that I wanted to ask? Well,
here's another one. The eyes. The eyes that were surrounding me reminded me of Ezekiel's will. I was in the middle of Ezekiel's will.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We were still saying it. In fact, I've seen it and I filmed it. So everything I've heard from you, I've heard before in different bits and pieces of other people's stories, right? And it's very interesting, this whole, I know. Good question. How do you know, you keep saying that you're having dreams, and how do you know those are not outer body experiences?
I have no doubt I'm out of body. Okay, here's some of it that I did not share, and there's no way I could share it all. I would wake up and sit up in bed and get out of the bed, and I will I got two legs, turn around, and there's my body laying in bed.
That's a good sign that it's not a body experience.
Yeah, now there was a night that I sat there and looked at myself snoring, laying in bed on my left side, and then looking around like, wow, okay. And should I go? Well, I did say I would answer to it fully. So I noticed that I had these, for lack of a better term, strings. It wasn't like physical strings, but I could touch them coming out of my chest, around the center of my chest, and they sped off to distances unknown. And there's no physical limitations there was a physical object like a bed, a wall, TV, you name it in front of it. It would just stretch on into infinity to wherever it was connected. And one was connected directly to my body, and it was not silver, not like the crazy stuff that I could that people have talked about with out of body experiences and having this silver cord. No, it wasn't like that. I couldn't grab a hold of the silver cord and yank it and pull my body or me toward my body. So it wasn't like that. It was like a soul connection, yeah, for lack of a better term. And strange thing. Well, no, I'll be here for hours if I go down that route to explain what exactly I know those connections to be. But
So
yeah.
what? So what? So what?
So what? Sure. So
yeah.
each one of those connections led to people in my life that I either have touched that were alive or dead or had passed or will have a connection. And the stronger the connection, the more love between myself and whatever the end of this string, I guess, cord was about or connected to, the bigger the bigger the cord was, and the more vibrant the cord was, and the different color, it had different colors, all the colors of the rainbow, and then some. Calla said, I didn't see any silver cord either. Yep, there you go. It wasn't a silver, there was not a silver cord that I was aware of. It could have been something. There was.
I'll tell you what, Shawn, the first thing when you said that, it brought me back to the willow tree and the people being hung. Was there some kind of connection between the two?
Oh, there's a connection between it. Now, the last several weeks, I have woke up underneath the canopy of that willow tree. Which one do you want to? Which one do you want to go? You want to go down how I realized that I was out of body, or do you want to go down that willow tree one?
Your spirit and soul guide you, bro.
I don't think there's a whole lot to glean to say that, to expand upon what those connections were. Each one, like with Calla, Sue, I had a connection to Sue. She and I, have talked on the phone, and I care for her as a friend. I have a connection, and I recognize that I have a connection to her, and I have connections that sped off into infinity that I have no clue, other than I can feel that connection with someone else out in the distance. How close they are, how close they aren't, I don't know at that time. Let's see. Julie, actually, my friends, it got to the point where I was writing and I was at a loss for words of how in the world am I going to explain this? I can't even explain it to myself to say it out loud. I said, well, can you sketch it? Sure, why not? I can sketch it. And heck, if I didn't, I sketched dozens of drawings. And the first book I'm ever going to put out is named My Argument with God. I've already named it. And how I got before God, I argued for 8 people in my life. Some of them I knew, some of them I didn't at that point that I was aware of in my living presence. I know all but one of them as of right now. I have a suspicion of who the 8th person is, but the very first person was my late brother Travis. And God rest his soul. And we had, where he went through cancer. He had rectal cancer, and it was caught very late in the process. And he spent about a year or so. Actually, I found the last text message to him in my phone last night when I was doing my show. And I was like, oh, my God. I hadn't seen that in a little bit. But he was the first one that I argued for. and there was others that I had argued for. And I'm not going to name names because, privacy concerns. And everyone I have reached out to that say, hey, you are one of these 8 souls, came back to me.
Say you're arguing for.
Arguing for, I have to, I had to come back to either help them do something, show them something, or in one case, just say one word or two to get them to do the right thing and be back with God at the end of their life.
Okay.
So
7 out of 8. You don't know that one person. That's very interesting. So the 7.
I have drawn that one person. I have sketched that one person. It got to the point where
is it a man or a woman? Is it a man or a
woman? It's a woman, and not all. I've got let's see, 1, 2, 3. There's 3 males, or 4. Yeah, 3 males, 5 females in this group. Now, and there for a while, my friend Julie and I, Julie said it's a female, and at the time I had no clue at that time whether it was a male or female. I said, I have no clue if it's a male or female, and she said it's a female, and I was like, no, it can't be. And Julie actually was one of the 8. So one of the 8 souls that I argued for. But she said the 8th one was a female, and I said, as God is my witness, I have no clue if it's a male or female. I don't remember. And I was riding one day on my back porch, and then all of a sudden, this person was sitting across from me, plain as day, looking at me. And then I started, it was like I had to sketch that person out. And I've published one of them. One of the sketches, I've sketched a person 3 times. And it was like itching. I couldn't scratch it. And I was like, I got to sketch this thing out. And the next, like, wow, that kind of looks like her. And there's one I didn't publish because, I was like, what if this person doesn't want to be known as one of the 8? Sheldon, do you know if Shawn could sketch before? Yeah, I could sketch before. I was actually a fairly good artist. There, Crystal. And one of the first sketches I did to kind of get this crazy need to get out this promise, which I couldn't, there was some stuff I just can't put to words because I don't have the ability. I'm definitely not somebody that wanted to write or felt a need to write beforehand, but I just don't have the words to put into a communicative way to say this is what I experienced. So Julia is saying, hey, can you sketch it out? And one of the first sketches was of all 8 souls and that angel.
What does the angel look like?
The angel looked like he was much bigger than me, which I wasn't part of the sketch. It wasn't. It was like if I was taking a picture and holding up my smartphone and going clip. There was 8 plus 1 in front of me. And a handful of people have seen that sketch and said, okay, who's who in this sketch? And the biggest one in by far was the angel. The angel was probably 10 feet tall, give or take. If you could put it in some sort of measurements that would be meaningful. And the rest of them was between 5 foot and change up to 6 something. But they all were in cloaks. Some were farther away from me. versus the closer ones to me. And the closest one obviously was the angel. And then, I've actually been back to that certain spot again. But during my dreams, I have come to know these. Remember that opal gate I explained to you about that felt like warm goo or whatever? There are so many of those gates around in my dreams. And they're not the same color. Definitely not the same color. Some are as black as coal. Some are, red. Some are blue. Some are green. And they all pulsate in this weird shimmy glow that is unlike anything else I could describe. And I tried to sketch it. I just can't do it. But only thing I can say that makes all this right in my head is I can always feel the presence of God in this near-death experience, except during that hellscape, those series of hellscape dreams.
What does it feel like when you're in the presence of God?
Home.
Okay.
Literally just home. I'm where I need to be. The first time I was in front of God, I had how can I say this? It was like I had to bow. There wasn't everything in me. I had to bow. There's no question. I had to bow. And my soul started singing to God, Father. And it was like it joined the chorus of all the other souls and angels in heaven.
So when you bow, that requires you to have two legs.
Yeah, well, I obviously had two legs in my near-death experience. Yeah, I had two legs. Even when I'm in my dream, I had two legs. That's at that time was one of the catalysts of saying, yeah, I'm in a dream. And like, oh, okay, well, yeah, all right. Now it's almost as soon as I wake up in a dream, like, oh, I'm not in Kansas anymore. Where am I? And, for the last few weeks, I wake up underneath the canopy of this rainbow glowing willow tree.
That's pretty cool.
So look up in the canopy of this willow tree, and you see blue sky peeking through the canopy. And there's three angels outside the canopy of the willow tree.
Three angels. Okay.
Three angels, yeah.
And do they look like human beings, or do they look like orbs, or?
No, they have physical presence. Majority of them, I could say they have more than two eyes. Some have 7 fingers on each hand. Some of them have multiple wings. Well, I wouldn't say wings. Closest thing that I could come to explain to you. Have you ever been into a deep freezer in a commercial kitchen with a big, huge freezer? And you open up the freezer and that ice fog comes out of the freezer. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yes.
Kind of deal. Okay.
Yes.
It's like their presence exudes this energy. And I can see that, yeah, it looks like wings, but it kind of,
like a mist
reaches. It's not exactly a mist. It's a mist energy kind of deal, but it looks like wings. And if I hadn't been able to look upon them and gawk at them for so long, I was like, yeah, that's wings. Yeah, sure, well, that's definitely wings.
Some describe it as being hazy, with kind of sense on the outside of the edges of it is like sparkles, energy.
Well, yeah, I could see that. But each angel has their. They don't look like the same, if you could call it, species. You could definitely tell that they're angels, or I can. And to be able to say, do they look human? Yes and no to a certain extent. if I didn't know what they looked like beforehand, I would probably be scared out of my mind.
They are a little bit different than what we've been told, that's for sure. The Catholic Church didn't quite tell us the whole story there, and it kind of distorted it. 7 fingers as well.
You know, so on some of them had that would probably be the best description.
So this multicolored willow tree, what does it represent to you?
To me, it's like
Well,
let's see. What does it represent to me? It represents my
why do you
connection.
Why is it a willow tree?
That's what it looks like to me. That's what it looks like to me.
Right.
Is it a species of tree? I have no clue if it's a species tree. Looks and feels like a tree. It doesn't, if you've ever been under the canopy of a willow tree, it has a real kind of a bitter, earthy smell that's distinct to a willow tree.
Yeah.
The resin and stuff that drips off of it and all that stuff. It doesn't have that. Actually smells a little bit like honeysuckle. I'm not exactly sure if it's tree of life or the tree of knowledge. That has crossed my mind a few times, if it's tree of life or tree of knowledge.
Now these branches that are like willows, do they like sparkle or they stay, or do they move?
They move in the wind. Are they independent of the wind? No. Yes and no. All I can say, it moves in the presence of God, and God's presence is everywhere.
Is there anything ever attached to this willow tree? Like orbs or entities?
No entities whatsoever. It's actually the angels that are around that willow tree. I have not witnessed them being inside under the canopy. Only myself.
So there's magical protective space.
No, there's
granted to you. This magical space has been granted to you. Of course, most people, I think, have had a chance who sat under a willow tree. It's like you're blanketed. It's like an umbrella that covers you, right? It gets the smell and all that kind of stuff, but it's just like, especially when the branches are mature and they're descending to the ground. Is that how it is? Like, is it like you're inside? I guess
I'm inside. I'm inside of the canopy. It's like it's got walls all around me if you want to look at it from that perspective. And there's a space that doesn't have. Sometimes it has branch and stuff. It's like a willow tree, but it's glowing, multicolored like a rainbow, but it's vastly more vibrant than looking at a rainbow or looking at any spectrum of color that we are aware of here.
And it's fascinating. And I'm sorry if I'm gravitating to this willow, but
okay. Why not?
There's a million other things to gravitate, but actually, the willow, you talked about how when there were 9 people hanging from it.
No. I said in my hell dream, everyone that ever cared or loved hung from that burnt out remnant of that tree.
So there's numerous people, not just 9.
Yeah.
Now, and what's is interesting about willows, because I've seen this and I've seen many things that go around with it, is that they have a higher tendency for some reason to be struck by lightning.
I'm unsure about
that. But regardless, I've seen them, and I've seen them burn, and it's smell, and they kind of a freaky thing. This connection with you and your dream and the spirit realm in heaven. I find that very interesting. You don't hear that too often about a willow tree. It's so definitive. Usually you hear a lot of stuff about more man-made stuff, you know what I mean? Clothes, houses, cars, that kind of stuff that people associate with. So the reason I'm bringing it up is for some reason you associate it with willow trees.
No, not necessarily. I have been other places besides where willow tree was not. I've been there for the longest time. I would wake up on a dark path, walking uphill on the side of a mountain, and I would come across souls that were on the side of this path.
Okay.
And demons, and there was this one, demons and angels would meet me along the path, along with other people that I knew. And I had conversations with a couple of them, folks that I saw on the side of the path while I'm awake, and say, "Hey, I saw you on this path." Well, what was I wearing? Or what did I say, or what did I do, and all this other stuff. And the first time, every time I've ever mentioned, "Hey, I saw you in my dream," I expect to hear, "Well, you're crazier than this best bug." I'm like, that's what I'm expecting. And I honestly have never gotten back. Okay, one person that I said, "Hey, I saw you in my dream and I wrote about you," and I actually granted this man what I wrote about him. And the first thing he said, "Okay, what's my message from God?" I'm like, "I'm not exactly sure that I got a message for you, but I just wanted to show you, let you read what I have written about you specifically." So
Interesting. Demons and angels. How are you able to distinguish between the two?
I know them to a certain extent. I know every one of them, but the distinction is, angels are a hell of a lot uglier than a demon.
Say what? We'll talk about that. This is interesting. You're saying something that I know, but I'm going to hear from you.
Yeah, angels can be any shape, form, or fashion, just like a demon. There's basically one and the same if you want to look at it from that perspective. But a demon tries to disarm you, so they're going to take on a pleasant shape or form or fashion, something familiar, and they never present themselves as, "I'm a scary whatever."
So they morph, or they shapeshift for you, so they give you something familiar. So
yeah, like with Lucifer, Satan, outside of my back door in my dream, he came to me 1, 2, 3, 4, at least a half a dozen plus different people that I was intimately aware of, and I knew who that person was, but he couldn't get their eyes right. For whatever reason, he could not get their eyes right. There's one person that I know has very distinctive eyes, and I'm like, you're not that person.
Huh.
Yeah.
And when you said that, what happened right after that? Did they change? Did they morph? Did he disappear?
Yeah. Well, he was so
because this is multiple times.
So, he would change. He changed from. There was one time he changed from our brother to another person, and then to another person right in front of me. He said, "I can assume anybody that you've ever cared for." Like, I've been cocky, and I'm going to find my way inside your house. I'm going to find my way inside of your sanctuary, more or less. And outside of actually an angel from God being inside of my house, that damned angel has never been inside my house.
That's good.
Not in my dreams, but yeah, there's been a few people that have walked through my door that I'm kind of wondering what was attached to them.
Well, you should, rightfully sure you should, because that's exactly what's going on all over the place. Let's go back to this whole idea because of demons presenting themselves as familiar spirits, or entities, or people that you've known are recognizable. They give you this kind of false sense of comfort. Okay, and then I've heard they'll do things like they'll love bomb you. You've heard of that phrase, I'm sure. Well, they hit you with a bunch of just this feeling of, oh, wonderful peace. It's just not lasting, but it's long enough for them to get a foot in the door. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, absolutely, without doubt.
What is that? What do you recall? What did that seem like? What were your sensations? What were things you recognized about
it? Well, it was by multiple times, multiple dreams over the last year that I've come across that certain feeling that it would these demons would assume certain people that I loved dearly or had loved at one time. And what can I say here? What can I assumed a shape of someone that I at one time loved beyond any measure that I could possibly love. And when it formed in front of me in that particular woman's image, I automatically knew it was a demon. I was like, nope, there's no way that you're in my dream. And I rebuke you in the name of...
Is it because of their continence, or is it just a feeling inside you? And what was that feeling? I mean, you automatically knew.
It was just a feeling of, I'm here, let's start all over again kind of sensation, like hey, you mentioned love bombing. It's sort of like that. You exude some sort of false sense of hope and love, and like, no, I don't. There ain't no way that I would ever allow you back in my life, kind of deal. And I know that you are a demon. And then it started laughing at me in a very demonic nature. And then it jumped off into the darkness.
Did its shape change? Was it leaving into the darkness? Or did it stay the same, like a human?
It kind of shape changed, but as I rebuked it in the name of Jesus Christ inside my dream, it just went whoop, and it started laughing until it left. And it was like during this, what could I call this to make it my walk up the mountain, which I eventually wound up at the top of the mountain. But I would always start my dreams for, a few weeks on this path up toward the mountain. I would pass the same tree. It was like being in a freaking Western back in the 60s. You see the same tree, same rock. These people would ride a horse by. It was like, yeah, I remember that tree. I remember this. And it was like, I'm on the same path I was the night before, going to wherever. But where was I going with this?
Up the mountain.
I was going up the mountain, and I knew where I was, and I knew that I, would pass by certain people, but I knew I had to get to the top of the mountain. And for what end it was at the top of the mountain was God.
Now, when you say God, did you witness an entity, a being, or just was it a sensation? What do you mean, God? No, it's a very
My
important.
where God wanted me to be. How's that? That was the destination that I was. It was like you need to, inside of me, I needed to uh, walk to the top of this mountain to have a conversation with God. And along that mountain, I met a bunch of different folks. There was one point where there was this huge fire, and around the fire was sometimes were angels and demons and other people, souls around that fire. And I spent many dreams around that fire. And oh wow, the eighth soul was actually there. Actually, at multiple of them. The ones and the one I can't say who it is because I really don't know. I have my suspicions who it is, but I couldn't tell you. And this eighth soul was on the other side of this fire. It only spoke to me once. I asked, I said, "Who are you? Where are you? Why can't I know your identity?" And this voice says, "I'm scared of what I'm seeing. I don't know if I want you in my life." And I'm like, okay. So I never, reached out or tried to, go around the fire to, I was like, oh, okay, you got your space. You want to be whatever this is. And this soul, whoever this is, witnessed in this dream my conversations with demons and angels and stuff that would come and visit me at this fire.
Huh.
It was like the fire itself was a protective barrier between myself and the angels and demons and stuff. So,
Was it? You think this witness might have some involvement in it? And you having these encounters?
this witness didn't have any involvement. The angels and demons were aware that this witness was there, but they didn't address this witness. And this witness did not address them. This witness was there watching, observing, I guess, through the flames of the fire. And this person only spoke to me once, and I'll have to go back and read what I wrote about this time, which I hadn't thought about that in a while.
Well, I definitely see connection. Not to say it's so, but I just see some similarities between Moses going up to the mountain and the burning bush.
Well, that wasn't a burn. It was a holy fire. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't of any. I didn't see a bush there. Was there bushes all around? Sure, heck yeah. But there was darkness. But you could also see, on the clearest night sky that you've ever been, without any kind of light pollution, you could look up and you could see all the stars and all the galaxies, and you name it was up there. And it was just so vibrantly, it was almost like it produced enough light to see the environment around you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
like it maybe used to be. Let's talk one more thing, and that is about these angels. Now, you said that they were ugly, scary looking, and I think that's important mystery that's been hidden from many people. And I think it's been deliberately done by organized religion. This will also tie into Sheldon's question about Christianity and how it made your experiences have caused you maybe to waver or to strengthen your belief in that.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that I had a preconceived notion what these entities should look like?
Absolutely. No. I'm telling you. I'm not telling you. I'm telling everybody that organized religion, the priestcraft, would be out coming.
Organized religion has nothing to do with my dreams or my near-death experience.
I'm not saying that. Listen to me, please.
Okay.
The Vatican, the Mormons, so all these organized religions have painted a picture of what demons and what angels look like to influence us. And from my own observations, there seems to be the law of reversal being applied. So what I'm going to ask you about, you said that angels are scary looking, frightening looking, ugly looking. And I would like you to explain that and describe that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I've had my own personal experiences as well. What I'm saying is that this part of the story seems to be glossed over. I think it's important. Tell me.
Glossed over. What do you mean by glossed over?
Oh, well, you know, they try to paint the picture that all angels are just these soft and fluffy and nice and
like the paintings of the little kids and the here's the other caveat. Here's the other caveat. There are no female angels. I repeat, there are no female angels that I have ever witnessed in my entire existence.
Which, by the way, there's a lot of people that will say that they're spirit guides. They'll show up, and one will be in a female form, and others, and just something to point out as well. But I want to go back to this, if you're willing to describe to us, to your best ability, what do angels look like? At least the ones you encountered.
The ones I've encountered, they some have nothing but fire around them. And you might see a hint of eyes or whatever. Some of them have multiple eyes upon eyes. Some look almost human-like to a certain extent. And if they want to assume a certain human or a certain animal or a certain whatever, they can. It's almost second nature to them to assume whatever. It's at the will of God. If God wills it, then so be it. That's like, there's no rules or regulations of what a angel looks like. And now I went back and like, okay, did I see that correctly? How can I say this without being, I've written a bunch of stuff that I'm kind of wondering, well, did I just go against the word of God and I wrote something that would, strike down something, or did I just blaspheme myself writing this? And then I would go and do a deep dive and start researching the Bible and other texts to see if I did exactly that. And quite honestly, everything I have written kind of holds hands with the scrolls and Bible verses. To by and large, I have not seen anything that I have written that would contradict. That would be a good word. Contradict anything, or it would fill in gray areas, or not in any areas whatsoever of what you would see in any of the Bible verses that are in the King James Bible or any other Bible that's out there that I'm aware of that I can research readily upon online. Even the Ethiopian Bible or in any other books that are out there. So that were not included in the proper King James version or the ones that Western Christianity would use. But the angels themselves, to get back to your answer, angels look. To explain the three that's when I woke up this morning and I left, they're comparative to me about the same size. I would dare say they're probably 15 feet, give or take, tall. If I could take a ruler and put it up against them and measure them,
maybe three times the size of an average man.
Yeah, like 3 times the size of an average man. The three have similar, if you want to call, to dumb it down, look like wings. They don't look like like the cartoonish figures of these wings that pop out. That would be just absolutely just, I wouldn't say blasphemy, but it would be dumbing down how beautiful it looks. Yeah, I would say to kind of grasp at a term, an aura, maybe. But this aura is not like you would see like on a camera or whatever that these metaphysical whoozy Watsits will say, hey, I can see auras and I can read them and it looks like that. No, that's not it. No, this is like, it's not like the aura is being expelled by the angel. It's like it's communicating with God. I would guess that it was both coming and going, egressing and ingressing from the angel, from God himself. If that makes sense. It's not like it's falling away from him or sparkling away or flying away like a smoke from a flame. It's not that at all.
Okay. Emanating out, or just kind of.
It's not radiating. It's radiating out and radiating in. It's just
emanating.
It's like they are a part of God. It's himself, and what is before you is like emanation from God.
Yep.
And they're. It's so hard to sit and try to explain in a 3D realm what this looks like. I can certainly see all the Bible verses that's, when the angels say, "Be not afraid of me" in the Bible. I can honestly say, yeah, if this is the first time you'd witness them, you'd probably be scared and jump out of your skin and scratching to get the heck away from them, because there's that so unlike a you and I, and they don't look the same by no means. I have seen vast legions of these angels. They all don't look the same. Some of them look the same. Some of them don't. Some of them, especially the ones around the throne of God. Those are the ones that are so unlike any of the other angels. The ones that are outside, that I left this morning when I woke up, they sort of look humanish. Each one had about 6 eyes apiece, 6 fingers. When I say 6 eyes, I'm not taking say 6, orbits inside their head. I'm talking like 2 orbits with 6 pupils inside of each eye. If that makes sense.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Say that one more time. So that makes
2
sense.
orbits, like you're looking at me, and I've got 2 eyes, and I've got a retina, and pupil, and all that stuff. They got 6 each in each orbit. 6 retinas, 6 pupils in each orbit.
Wow, that's very. It's like, so is the whole idea
just 2 orbits?
Eyes within eyes, or eyes within an eye. That kind of idea.
To a certain extent, to be able to explain what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Without having to say, if you look at these eyes and have the ability to take in all that I do over there and witness on different planes of reality, all at the same time, and take, be able to look behind the angel and in front of the angel, on top of the angel, from every angle that you can see it, without having to explain all of that. That would probably be the easiest way I could say that's what those eyes look like.
Now, are they look like humans' eyes, or are they more like insects' eyes, or are they?
No, they're not. They're not like those hexagonal composite eyes of an insect. No, they don't look like that.
So they're more like almond-shaped eyes, like humans' eyes. So.
Yeah, almond to a certain extent.
It's fascinating. Well, my friend, for someone who only wanted to talk for an hour, you did too. And I don't thank you very much. And so, I hope this is just round one of this journey and discussion. I know there's other people who have asked you to join, and I hope I've demonstrated to you that I'm very interested in having what you have to say, and I really do want to hear what you have to say. I'm not here to guide it.
Well, no. Here's with all the interviews and whatnot. I get you want to have some contextual. I want to be able to see it in my mind's eye, how you see it, and to explain what the environment is that I was in the near-death experience and what my dreams look like. Yeah, I can see having to say, yeah, I want to, kind of step into your shoes, so to speak, and be able to see that. I get that. But these dreams have so much more context than just this visual look, taste, touch, and feel stuff. It is
Absolutely
way beyond.
We haven't got.
And I haven't even touched on the future. I haven't even touched on the future.
So I mean, and I'm sincere about this, my friend. Is that you come back soon in part 2 and expand more on this, where you're learning and your journey. Because it is extremely important. It's not just for sensational purposes to do this. Mm-hmm. The self-evident reason why it's important is because every one of us is going to pass away from this realm, and we're going back into the astral plane, or going back into the spiritual realm, and whatever it may be. And we all want to know a little more about what that might be, and it's something that we're designed to yearn for and search after. So it's
the one thing that you haven't asked me about was what Jesus Christ looked
like. Well, guess what? Let's do it next time. How about that?
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, absolutely. I would love to hear that. That would be some bait and switch right there. It's next time we'll talk about how Shawn saw our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, what he looked like. That would be fascinating. And see, maybe unless you want to do it now. I guess. Did you want to do it now? We can still do it if you can.
No, that was just curious. Out of all the interviews that I have ever done, nobody's asked me what Jesus Christ looks like. I say Jesus Christ's name and just about every interview I have ever done. I've said the name Jesus Christ multiple times. And I've said it in this interview multiple times. But I have yet to come across anybody to say, hey, what did Jesus Christ look like? I have said it on my own program, deposing my own self and say, hey, this is what Jesus Christ I was aware of in my near-death experience.
When I think of what he possibly looks like today, it's nothing like if you envision as a man. I mean, I do see
the man that's described in the Bible.
Eyes of fire. I do see eyes of fire, and I see, as they say, that hair is, and his skin is white as wool or as snow, and brazen feet. In other words, he's sensational. He's brilliant. But go ahead and tell me, what did you see? And we can go into more detail next time. In a nutshell, what did you see?
When I first witnessed Jesus Christ, he was sitting on a stone bench in heaven, praying. He was dressed in all white, and this got a text message. Now we need to know what Jesus Christ looks like.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he was sitting on a stone bench. And why was it not gold? Why was it not that? Now, why was it anything? And I can honestly tell you, the stuff that, the description of gold was paved the streets of heaven.
Uh-huh.
Makes everything that we ever, thought of as valuable over here was underfoot there. So he was just simply on a stone bench, meaning there was, two slabs of rock on either side of the bench, and there was a stone slab on top of those of that bench, and he was sitting there praying. And I have described this prayer. If you're well, Sue probably knows this. Aussie Sue in the chat. You know, a didgeridoo, Sue. That sound the didgeridoo makes. That would. It's not that, but it's close to, maybe close enough to say that it was in the family of maybe that sound or vibration from it. Now, what he actually looked like, he had long hair, full beard. His eyes were ice blue. And he blinked slowly. And he was aware of everything. He did not talk to me directly. He was very aware that I was there. I liken it to, like, if for the folks that are old enough or that heard the stories of these party lines back in the day, when you pick up a old phone and you hear multiple people talking on the phone, I liken it to God. Jesus Christ was praying to God, and he made that prayer privy to everyone that could hear it, could feel it, could be a part of it. It was thick as molasses. It vibrated everything that I was. I can honestly still hear it and feel it as of right now. It's an awesome feeling. But there is a girl that has had a near-death experience, and I can't remember her name right off the top of my head. I used to be able to spit her name out, but she has sketched and painted Jesus Christ, and that is possibly the closest rendition of what Jesus looks like that I have come across over here. Not exactly, but he has these ice blue eyes that I've not seen on anyone else ever have. But I can honestly tell you he's not coming back in that form.
Ice blue eyes. Well, Shawn, I'm going to tell you something. I've really enjoyed listening to you and learning from you, and there's so many things there as well. But and things that you said and some of the things that happened in my life. But we'll talk about it another day. I really enjoyed this. I super enjoyed this. I'm glad. Chasing the Truth. To those who don't know, Chasing the Truth, Shawn G. Of course, I'll have the link in the information box of his YouTube channel, and I strongly recommend you go follow Shawn. This is a very good time to quit because, I recognize that a whole heck of a lot was shared. And it's going to take, I would be surprised if there's going to be a few people that listen to this more than once. They heard some things that they probably never heard before. And some things that for me, I know that validated things that I've witnessed and seen and heard. So I appreciate that, man. I really do. I value you. I believe you're a friend and brother in Christ, and I really want the best for you, and I want great success for you. And Heavenly Father,
I'm not honestly the reason I do this isn't because I want to be successful. I would rather not be known at all. I would rather just say, let me just live out my life in obscurity. I'm not looking for fame. I'm not looking for anybody to know my name. I honestly, after I die, I don't expect anybody to, other than friends and family, to know my name after that. I'm not looking for any kind of notoriety whatsoever.
When I say success, I wasn't referring to material things. After listening to you, I realized that that's not just what you're interested in. So I wasn't going to talk about that. I was talking about doing your mission and your job for God. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what great success in serving God, Heavenly Father, and that you've really changed some people's lives. You know, and you know, I do understand where you come from. You mean, I've been in 55 years. I've done a lot and been a lot of places and had material things, and you know, even my small little channel, which I love it at this size. Really, you know, I finally got 300. Right, it's been kind of this thing that I've enjoyed them suppressing me, right, for a long time. Because I used to have thousands of subs in my old channel, right, and it did, you know, it long time ago that the numbers don't matter, and what matters, at least for me, is the truth. And whether I ever make a dime off it or not, if I do, it all goes back to this, the journey and sharing it with people, the truth. You know, like my first show was nothing but the truth. You got chasing the truth, and the way the truth's life, it will lead you back to God, and you inevitably will come to this point of starting to deal with the other side when it comes to outer body experience, near-death experiences, vivid dreams, on and on it goes. I mean, you start to realize that the purpose is not to be, you know, a billionaire or be famous or whatever. It's about getting back home. It's all about getting back home. And so there's that part of the journey is to navigate one's way back home. And how does that happen? And I've discovered, at least for me, is that you can't do it without a helping hand. And that helping hand for me is Jesus. So that's how I see it. Other people can disagree, and I'll totally respect that. But it's Shawn, chasing the true Shawn G, the man. He's going on his own. He's going to new horizons, new. I'm so happy for you. I know it might seem scary or maybe disappointing or whatever. I don't know. Maybe
I look at this as another road that God has put me upon, and you know, it's like, yeah, here's a crossroad. You got to go. You know, shoo, go out that direction. See what you can stir up, or that kind of. I don't look at it as a bad thing of no longer being in the Dark Waters family of shows. That, you know, I knew for a fact I would not be in that realm of shows, you know, forever. You know, did I feel a little disappointed at the time when I separated? Sure, why not? Yeah, you get used to that kind of stuff.
Sure,
but you know, the first thing I did after the relationship was ended, I said, God, what do you want me to do? And the first thing that popped in my head, remember your promise. Yeah, and as soon as I did that prayer, and that voice in my head said, remember your promise, pop. I was like, everything's going to be all right. No problem whatsoever. Keep doing what I need to do.
When was the revelation of this relationship to end? When did it happen? How recently?
Oh, the actual severing of the you know, I had a open-ended contract with DW, and you know, either one of us, for no reason whatsoever, could say I'm done with it, and that would, you know, all I had to do was say I'm done with it and send whatever, or he send whatever. That happened last week, the week before last. I can't remember the actual date, but
now, was that your? I guess I have to ask the question: was it your decision or was it Dee's?
DW's. It was DW's decision to do that, but I harbor no ill will toward that.
I understand
at all.
A lot of times we need to get kicked in the butt to get back on the right track. That's what it comes.
Right. So
it happens so many times.
I look at it from that. Yeah, I look at it from that perspective. That, you know, it needed to end. It didn't need to keep going on. And I, you know, I don't have any ill will toward him. I have prayed prayers for his endeavors that he's doing, and all the folks that have joined or departed from his Dark Waters Incorporated
No,
thing.
you're chasing
I hope and pray. Yeah, I'm chasing the truth. Dark Waters, all that fine family of folks over there. I hope and pray God blesses you with everything that God's will can gift. So
awesome,
I
awesome,
don't.
Shawn. I can't wait next time I'm on your show. I'm gonna once again. I'm thank you so much. I want to end this recording because I respect Shawn and I respect his message. And not to say I don't respect anybody else's message. I don't know what time since I started this last week. We've been doing like 6-hour shows, but I want people to hear this. So I'm going to end this recording. And there's a good chance I'm coming back on live again to do more stuff. And I have a ton of questions to still ask you, Shawn, but I think it'd be good to come back at another time with fresh minds to ask these questions. But I mean, we're talking about amazing stuff, and the physical stuff. We're talking about angels, demons, guilt, joy. This will thing's fascinating for me personally, and I will tell you later today why. And just on and on and on it goes. I mean, I got a list full of stuff. So to ask you about, and the numbers 3 coming up, 8 people, the 7 and the 1. It's just a fantastic journey, a wonderful thing. I think. I know it's hard for people to for many people, I shouldn't say that. I don't believe this is hard for most people. What's hard is just getting. When you being honest like this, Shawn, which is a big deal, not just for yourself, but for everyone else to hear the honesty. People are going to relate to this. I know this. They're going to hear what you're saying. And if they haven't heard it yet, they're going to hear it. They're going to go, wow, I can relate to it. Oh, I never thought of it that way. Oh, I can experience that. Because you don't hear this kind of real honest conversation. And a lot of these channels out there on YouTube and other where, it's kind of a scripted thing that goes on and on again. Sometimes not. Sometimes some are more generous with their time and letting the persons share whatever they really experience. Other people kind of, you know what I'm saying. What I heard tonight was a lot deeper than most, and I'm very appreciative of that. Okay, it shows that Shawn has contemplated and thought about this quite a bit to bring some of this stuff up and I can see I've seen other people who have seen very similar things that you've talked about. So very excited about talking to you again, my brother. So Wednesday night, Saturday night, Shawn will be live again. Go over there and support him. I'll try to. I have my son this weekend, so we'll be bouncing in and out. And awesome, man. Love you to death. And I love everyone else. Thank you, Sheldon. Thank you, Doll. Thank you, the Catalyst, for being here to support Shawn. Arlene, thank you.
Thanks for coming over.
Ozzy Sue, thank you. Who else? Who else did I miss?
Shawn? Doll and all. Hold on a second.
These are all your people, most part.
Let's see, Arlene, Sue, Crystal, Doll, Sheldon, and Sue again under the Catalyst, and there was a couple other people that had come and went, but yeah.
Let's do what
is my niece's name is Courtney.
Can we do what we're so used to, Shawn? The traditional closing out. Will you do it for us?
Sure. All right. Here we go. Father God, we come in your one and only Son's name, Lord Jesus Christ. In the love and mercy, establish a perimeter of protection around all of us and all our loved ones, those who pray for us and those their loved ones. May the holy angels guard us and all our possessions, establishing a perimeter of protection around us, rendering us immune from any kind of demonic influence. Ask that no demonic bondage, door, demonic entity, portal, astral projection, or disembodied spirit may enter the space of 100 yards in all directions of us. I ask that any demons within the vicinity or any that should try to enter here be rendered deaf, dumb, and blind, that thou wouldst strip them of all weapons, armor, power, illusions, and authority, that thou would bind, rebuke, disable them from communicating with or interacting with each other in any way. Remove them, sending them directly to the foot of thy cross, Jesus, Son of the Most High. I ask this in thy glorious and most holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Heavenly Father. All praise and glory go to you. Thank you, Jesus. All right. Rock and roll. Awesome stuff, man. End of broadcast.